Hey everybody, welcome to Kickassery. This is a double-header day, and I'm super excited about that because I have Rhonda with me here this morning. And what is Kickassery? As always, this is my opportunity to brag on people, to expose people to the world who have either directly or indirectly influenced me. And Rhonda doesn't know it, but she has influenced me before she even
Wow.
met me. So yeah, I've been kind of sort of. I ran across you a couple years ago. I believe Dwayne Cummins. Does that ring a bell at all?
Sure. Hmm.
Jason Sargent. Does that ring a bell at all?
Yes, yes.
So through, I don't know Dwayne, but I know Jason very well. So Jason turned me on to Strengthsfinders a couple years ago, and I really didn't do anything with it. I didn't really understand it. He tried to educate me, and I'm a little dense. So you have influenced me, and you didn't even know it because I've been kind of loosely following what you've been doing. So, Rhonda, who are you? What do you do?
Wow. How about that, Dale? Good to see you today. I am Rhonda Boyle with rhondaboyle.com, and I am a coach and a consultant, and I help people be who they are so they can go out and get what they want. And pardon my voice today. I've been partying like it's 1999 in Jamaica. Man.
I love it. Yeah, you just got back from a cruise, didn't you?
I did. And I've been kind of like this. Hey,
Yeah.
Michelle, good to see you.
And how was it?
It was great. It was a little chilly in January, which kind of surprised me. I thought
Define
being
chili in Jamaica.
69.
Okay, so that's chili. Okay. See,
Yes.
I've never been anywhere south of Alabama. So I live under a small rock. So,
That's
but
funny.
so here's the reason why we are. Sorry, I'm doing a little getting all of the back end here stuff taken care of. So
Hey,
here's why we're
Jason.
here.
Jason's there. Jason is in the house.
Yeah, Jason, this dude, he was actually one of my first kickasseries. Thank you,
Oh, good.
Jason. Man, I really appreciate you. So here's why we're here is Jason exposed this to me, like I've already said. And I decided, Rhonda, John Mayhew actually did the direct connect between you and I. And I said, why not? Let's get this thing done. So can you explain to us what is this Strength Finders thing? What is this?
Well, I would be happy to explain it. First of all, are you familiar with personality tests? I'll just start there.
A little bit.
Well, it's not one of those. Most people, like when I start describing what it is, they automatically think, oh, that's one of those personality tests. I've done those a dozen times.
I'm a
They're,
blue, a green, or a star, or a whatever.
yeah, or a puppy or a dolphin. BuzzFeed wants to know what princess you are or, what Disney character and so forth. And so there are a lot of those personality tests out on the market today, and they're all great, and I take every one of them. The difference with the Clifton Strengths Assessment, formerly called Strengthsfinder, is that it's a talent test. It tells us how you are uniquely gifted and talented. So that's really the big difference, because once you know how you're gifted, you can start to shift and live there more than trying to do stuff that you're not born to do,
Yeah,
right? So,
absolutely.
most of us, I didn't discover this assessment until, well, I'm not even going to tell you how old I was, but I was way too old. I wish I had learned about this when I was in my 20s. Gosh, imagine had I known about it in my 20s and been able to order my life and make choices based on who I really am, as opposed to who the world tries to tell me I am and should be.
Yeah,
So that's the opportunity that we have here today.
that's awesome. Okay, so I took my test, and part of the whole reason that you have graced us with your presence is to do the reveal. And so do you tell them? Do I tell them? How does the reveal work? You're the
Well,
expert on
let's
this.
let's start. You did take the assessment, and when you take the assessment, you get two options. You get to start with your top, what they call your top 5. And those are definitely your most dominant talents. You're really dominant between your top 8 or 10 or so, but this is the way that they can get you in the door, is to reveal your top 5. And or you can go ahead and open your full profile, which includes 34 talent themes, and they're in ranking order according to dominance.
Okay.
So we know that you're number 1, you live there all the time. You're number 2, you live there all the time, and so on.
Okay.
As you go lower and lower, you don't live there. You might access that talent occasionally, but it's not necessarily where you live or where you're at your best.
Okay.
So with that said, why don't you tell everyone what your top 5 Clifton Strengths talents are?
So is there a redneck strength? Because I feel that's really where
No.
I fit the most. All right. So we'll start with 5 and we'll roll up. So
let's start with number 1.
Number 1. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Strategic is my number 1. Communication, number 2. Belief is number 3. Responsibility is number 4. And positivity is number 5.
Wow, look at you. Strategic, communication, belief, responsibility, and positivity. So let me tell you a little bit about these.
Yes,
and then
please.
you can tell us how they show up for you.
Okay.
So people high in the talent theme of strategic, they have the ability to see all sides of a problem or how they're going to get to a goal that fast. You have the ability to fly up and above the problem and look at all sides of it, and it happens this fast. You just see it, and you wonder why the rest of us don't. It's because we're not high in strategic.
Right.
I had one of my earliest clients said to me once, he said, I just thought everybody else was stupid. Now I know they're just not strategic.
Right.
So
right.
That's it. You have an approach that is an overarching, you have the ability to see all sides of a problem, to find solutions. And not everybody has that ability.
Right. And sorry, go ahead.
Well, how does that show up for you? You tell us.
Well, it's kind of creepy, to be honest with you, because that's absolutely correct. Is, when I sit down, where it comes across the most for me is when I sit down and I talk to friends or colleagues or whatnot, and they're talking about business or they're talking about this, I can look outside of myself and see the processes and the way for them to go forward, or the parts and pieces of what needs to be done. I'm very good at that. I'm able to sit down and say, okay, well, this goes really well with my event planning. Is an event is, you're absolutely right. You're looking at the whole picture. You're looking at everything that needs to be done. And it's easy for me to say, okay, this is where we need to be. Here's all the parts and pieces that need to be done. Here's, list, do it all together. So yeah.
Well, but here's the problem that you may run into is that because other people cannot see the way you see, they don't believe you.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't follow your plan because they cannot see it.
Right. And or I say, okay, here's the plan. Here's what I see is the accurate way to do it. Well, when you get into leadership or you get into management or you get into, let's just be honest, doing events or fundraising for organizations, you have a lot of dominant personalities in the room. And where I get discouraged is I see what needs to be done. Now, I'm not right all the time. I don't have all the answers, but I could see what needs to be done. I'm like, here's the best process. And then when I get pushback on that, it's very discouraging because I'm like, but really, this is,
Right. So here's an opportunity for you, Dale, is that when you feel that pushback, if you use your words, your Clifton Strengths words, and you say, hey, remember, I have strategic as my number one gift and talent. And I really do see things that you may not be seeing. So can we talk about this a little more? And the reason I say that is because I recommend that people with strategic keep index cards with them so that they can get what's in here down on here for the rest of us to actually see. You might actually have to draw pictures for some of us, because listen, if you don't have strategic high, if it's not dominant for you, you can't see, but you don't know you can't see.
Now, is there also a part of this equation where you're using the word see, which I'm a very visual person. I'm a very visual person. And so, of course, I think in pictures. We all kind of think in pictures, but I think I do more so. It's like a ongoing video reel in my head. Is imagination, is being able to use our imagination kind of tie into this a little bit?
I would think that sounds to me like futuristic.
Okay.
Now, I know you pulled your whole profile, so was futuristic high for you?
Let me look.
I don't know.
Futuristic. We're looking for futuristic.
14. Yeah, so you can still see in your imagination. But people who don't have futuristic high, they don't access that part of their brains as much. They can.
Right.
We can do any of this. It's whether it's natural and innate or whether we have to, work at it. So for me to see, I tap into my communication talent and I write vision statements that allow me to see more clearly. So there's lots of strategies that you can use, like, if you don't have strategic high or you don't have futuristic high, you can work with a coach who can help you see things a little more easily through different strategies.
Right. So what's your number one?
My number one is ideation.
Ideation. Now, what's that?
Ideation is a talent. I like to relate it to popcorn brain. My brain is popping constantly with new ideas, fresh perspectives. I think way outside of the box. Don't confine me.
Right.
And I'm great in brainstorming, and I just come up, and not all my ideas are good. In fact, some of them are really bad. But they will get me or get us to new ideas if I can flow that way.
So my ideation is number 10.
Yeah, so that's high enough.
So you and I would have a great brainstorming.
We would be amazing.
So my number 2 is communication.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of that. I do a lot of that.
Yeah, you love to share stories and to talk, and you actually are probably a verbal processor.
Yeah.
So you talk things out as you think them through.
Even to myself sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're also good at, the fact that you have your own show is absolutely in honor of your communication.
Yeah.
This is an outlet for you to express yourself in a verbal way. So people high in communication love storytelling and love memes and love quotes and those types of things. And we're really good at even taking the words out of somebody else's mouth and putting them in. One time, I have communication high, so this is something you and I share. One time my husband said to me, I said something, I don't know what I said, and he looked at me and he said, "Do you not think before you speak?" And I looked at him and I said, No, never. Well, it's how I process. I process through thinking out loud.
Yeah.
And you do that a lot, right?
I do that a lot, but one of the I've had to create a switch in my brain to utilize the 2-1 ratio, and I've gotten a lot better in my ripe old age. And But yes, you're absolutely right. I would rather sit down and BS and talk and tell stories, and that is, you're absolutely right. That is how, and it's funny you talk about that, because I'm not, you said one of the things that strategics should have is note cards to take notes. I suck at taking notes. I'm not good at taking notes.
So it's not to take notes. It's to explain to people who are not strategic,
okay. Okay.
so they can see what you're doing.
There you go.
It allows you as a strategic to slow down and bring your vision down
Got it.
where other people are.
Got it. So with the communication, I remember in college, I took a like a high level macroeconomics class where I shouldn't have been in there. It was above my abilities. The only reason I passed that class was I got the best note taker, I got the straight A student, and then I got a couple other students that were struggling more than me. And what I've learned in my life is that if I'm able to understand something well enough, I can teach somebody else, or I can communicate with them better, then I've got it. I can understand it. But if you sit me in a classroom and tell me to take notes and just absorb,
shoot me.
I'm going to go drool. It's not going to work.
Well, your ideation is going to kick in, and your futuristic is going to kick in, and you're going to be talking all in your head and not listening.
Yes.
That's what's going to happen.
Absolutely. All right. So number 3, belief.
Yes. People high in belief have inner core values that are unchanging. So when I mean unchanging, have you ever heard of the line drawn in the sand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have one of those cement parking bumps. If anybody goes over that sucker, they're going to tear their car up, right? Yeah. You have certain values that are at the core who you are, and you have to live there. Integrity, family, honesty, authenticity. These are things that you value. And if you step outside of that, you cannot live there for long. Yeah. Absolutely, you cannot live there at all. Jason says belief is your 4-H. Were you in 4-H?
I'm a 4-H kid. I bleed green. As a matter of fact, I'm super excited because I'm signing my daughter up for Clover Buds here very soon. So yeah, Jason, you're right on that one.
Right, you cannot imagine not putting your daughter in the program. Exactly. It's that important to you. Yep. Your belief is so strong in that program.
Yep.
That you want your whole family and generations beyond to come in there.
I met my wife through the program. I've had my mentors. I learned body language through the program. So yes, that is a core thing. And you know, and it's funny you say all this, because I have friends that over the years would stop receiving my phone calls because I would tell them what I feel. I would tell them how I felt about what they were doing or what they weren't doing. And it's a balancing act, but you're absolutely right. I have this habit of not being able to keep my mouth shut if I see something that needs to be changed, or it's not okay. And I'm not saying that my way is the only way. I'm not saying that, you know.
Yeah, you are. It's the only way for you.
Okay.
And it's the only way for the people who you surround yourself with.
Okay.
You could not be around someone who lacked integrity for long.
Correct.
Tell us how you feel about a liar.
Don't do it. Nope. And that is one of the lessons my children have learned very early, is you're going to get a bigger thumping if you lie versus doing something wrong.
Exactly. Now, people high in belief also live by purpose. Like, you need to do things that are meaningful and purposeful, not that are,
mundane.
Not that don't mean, doesn't matter or doesn't mean something to you.
And that's probably one of the reasons why I've struggled having regular 9-to-5 jobs. Because I have this tendency of getting too involved in the process, and then I get frustrated and demoralized because we're not going forward. We're not doing something with it. So I've struggled with that.
Sure, either that or there's something out of integrity with the company that you're working with too. I know one of my people that I worked with several years ago, she literally walked off the job because she found out that her employer didn't believe the same way she did about a certain life issue. Yep. She was out of there. It was easier for her to go find another job tomorrow than it was. She just could not live there.
So in your experience then, people who work in, I'll use the word mundane because I don't have a better term at the moment, jobs that have not a lot of meaning to them, that they're not happy in the job, but it's become comfortable and they just kind of deal with it. Is that is their belief structure lower, or is that something else?
It could be that they have belief lower, and so therefore they have a higher tolerance in living in a space that doesn't really align with them. Okay. You, on the other hand, cannot do that.
Right.
It causes such a discord in you that you can't be there long. That's why I said, if you step outside of your belief, you cannot stay there for long. You got to get back in that lane of belief.
And and there's probably a little more to this than just the belief section, but my wife, when I go get a job, doing my thing and I'm working in a job that doesn't mean a lot to me, I'm just going through the motions. About 6 months into it, my wife's like, okay, we need to make a change because you're not okay. You're turning into an a-hole, you're whatever. And it's almost visceral. It's almost, I get very down.
It's absolutely visceral. It affects your body physically because you're not in alignment, mind, body, and spirit, soul, whatever. We're all three. It's that's where what we're doing. And so when you step out into an area that's not purposeful or that's out of integrity or that you're calling it mundane, where you get bored, you're like, I got to be doing something that's purposeful.
Yeah.
Something that's meaningful, something that, makes an impact and means something in the world. Mm-hmm. It's not even worth a paycheck, Dale.
It's not. It's not. No. And what's funny is I've done a lot of other things that I put more work into and I didn't even get paid for because it meant something to me.
Exactly. So you have a missional spirit. Mm-hmm. Like there's something, mission is important to you. So here's the thing is that you can have a job. It's not a matter of you not being employable. Right. It's a matter of you having a relationship with a business, a corporation, an employer that is in alignment with your purpose, with your belief, and that gives you, helps you feel like you've got some type of missional, you're on a mission. This fulfills the mission of you.
Yep.
So,
yes.
So when you start to feel that discord and that lack of alignment, instead of just quitting, you can start to examine, how can I shift this and get this in alignment? And that's where the conversations can start.
Absolutely. All right. So number 4, responsibility. I love this and I hate this at the same time.
You hate responsibility?
Well, it's just, I have this bad habit of taking on way more than I can handle.
Hello, responsibility. And that's what people high in responsibility are usually the first ones to volunteer. And the reason you do that is because you need control. You're seeking control. You're seeking you own it. You take psychological ownership of anything that you take on. You own it. It's yours. You wrap your hands around it. You won't let anybody else in sometimes, right? And you don't delegate. because your word is your bond.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is responsibility. If you say something's going to happen and it's going to get done, come beep or high water, even if you have to burn the midnight oil, it is going to get done.
And if it doesn't get done, that really sucks. I mean, and that's where I was.
Terrible.
That's where I was a couple years ago. Is I just took too much on. I was overwhelmed. I shut down, and then it was. And I'm still dealing with the remnants of that myself. Is I took too much on. I wasn't able to accomplish. Too many irons on the fire. You know the premise behind too many irons on the fire, right? Where that saying came from. So blacksmiths, iron forgers. Sure. When you get your coals hot, you put a piece of iron in there, it gets hot. Well, you can put so many pieces of iron in that same fire, but if you put too many irons in that fire, then it gets too hot. It keeps getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and so you're not able to handle all of the iron. So what happens is then they just all melt together because it just creates this perpetual heat. So too many irons in the fire means that you're not able to handle the individual pieces well enough before everything melts down and is absolutely unusable.
And you just described perfectly, you gave a perfect analogy for people with responsibility on overwhelm.
Yeah.
And people high in responsibility get on overwhelm a lot because of this deep, profound need they have for control.
And I don't, and it may be a control thing. It very well could be. I try not to be a controlling person, but at the same time is that I personally also have a very wide skill set. I have the ability to do a lot of different things. If I don't know how to do it, I can learn it very easily. And so it's easy for me to say, yes, we can do that. We can make that happen. We can, that's doable. Let's make it happen. Let's run it. And that's where, when I get very involved in a community, nonprofits, cool projects, business over here, I'm like, oh, hell yeah. 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 I turn into the bobblehead. Yeah. And then I overdo it, and then I don't accomplish anything, and then I just go boom.
Yeah, the pressure of that. And it's not a matter of control for controlling sake. It's a matter of control for ownership.
Okay.
There's a difference because your word is your bond. Yep. And so you want to own it because of your word, not because you need to control everything. Okay, so that's a real important distinction, I think.
Yeah.
So as a coach, I would encourage you to put a breather in, put a space before you say yes again. Mm-hmm. So you put in an accountability partner. Like, I can't say yes until I run this by my wife.
Right.
I have to talk to my coach, or I have to share this with my mentor to make sure it's in alignment with who I am and where I'm going. Mm-hmm. So it stops the bobblehead.
Yep.
And the quick raising of your hand and I've got it.
Yep.
And that way you put that breather in there so that you really know whether or not what you're taking ownership of and what you're taking on is in alignment with everything else, like your belief and the other things you have on your plate.
And 150% correct. And one of the things, we just moved here to Ohio, and I made a very conscious decision, which I'm struggling with. I made a very conscious decision living here, because we're only here, we're a military family, so we're only here for 2.5 years, maybe 3 years. And so while here, I chose not to get involved in the local business community to help prevent my bobbleheadness, but I'm feeling the effects because I'm not involved. I'm not doing things, so it's the push and pull.
Well, a part of your talent profile, when I look at it, and we're going to move forward here in a minute, you really need people.
Yes.
So whether you get involved in a business community, or you get involved in a faith community, or you get involved in a nonprofit community, or you get involved in a, pick one.
Yeah.
You need to be around people.
I do.
You're a peopler.
And part of that is I Uber at night. So
Uh-huh.
that's part of where I get that interaction, but it's not a leadership interaction. It's just a conversation interaction for 5, 10, 15 minutes at a time.
Sure.
It helped though. I look at myself as just a grand experiment. you know,
Aren't we all?
yeah, exactly. It's helped, but I'm not in charge of anything. And
Oh, and listen to your responsibility. Listen,
right,
I'm
exactly.
not in charge.
Right,
And you have a need to be in charge so you can own stuff.
right.
So
And
now you get to look around at what else you can own so you feel you get that need met.
right. And so this might be a good segue into the fifth one is that when I hear you say that and when I hear myself say I need to be in charge, I have an internal struggle all of a sudden where I'm like, well, I don't want to be the dictator. I don't want to be, and so
Sure.
it's so weird. But number 5 is positivity.
Yes. Yes. Positivity. People high in positivity are upbeat, fun, happy, joyful all the time. They look at the glass half full as opposed to half empty all the time. You automatically spin things towards the positive. We lost $1 million. That's okay. We'll just go get more.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Gives
Yeah.
us an opportunity to do it again.
Yeah. You're not bothered. Well, you are bothered. Here's the challenge with that is that when you go down, woo, it ain't pretty.
Mm-hmm.
People high in positivity tend to be a little more dramatic, a little more out there. I have positivity number 7, so I get this.
Nice.
And some of the most miserable people ever are high in positivity. And they're miserable because they are around too much negativity. Mm-hmm. You cannot be around negativity for about this long. And if you cannot get the other people uplifted, forget it. You're out of there. You got to go.
So it's awesome that you just said that, because one of the issues that I've worked through in my adult life is I've had this, and I didn't understand it, but I've had this just drive to lift everybody up.
It's your positivity. It's right there.
It's right there. I like people laughing around me.
Absolutely.
I like people to be happy around me. Now, I'm realistic. Not everybody's going to be happy all the time. Okay. But I feel a drive. If someone's having a crap day, I have a drive. If I see something on Facebook and somebody, that's close to me is having a crap day, I pick up the phone. But here's what I've done though that hasn't benefited me is that I would put myself down to try to lift somebody up. I utilize a comedy of self what's the word I'm looking for? I put myself down in funny ways with the hopes that brings everybody else up. Right. And it's not healthy.
Well, that's your strategic and your positivity working together. You become, right? You become, what's the word I'm looking for? Where you're self-deprecating.
That's the word I was looking for, yes.
Yes. Yeah, and that's very typical for people with strategic. They do that a lot. That's sort of like their, fallback position, I guess, to try to bring humor into the situation. You put yourself down to lift other people up. And that's not, as you well know, is not necessarily good either. But your drive is to uplift other people. And that's not going to go away.
No.
Here's the thing for you to know about your positivity is that you cannot uplift yourself.
Yeah.
So when you get down in the dumps and you start, and there's a feeling associated with this, right? When you start feeling that negative energy, and you start doing one of these, you immediately need to reach out to someone and be vulnerable and say, hey, buddy, I am having a day and I need somebody to make me laugh or go watch I Love Lucy, or something like that, because you cannot uplift yourself. The mission of positivity is to uplift others. And it doesn't really work for you. You can't really uplift you.
Which sucks. And it's frustrating because, my responsibility then kicks in and I'm like, well, this is my job, is to help everybody else around me. And I have a hard time asking for help.
Right.
And, I've got buddies and friends and colleagues that are like, Dale, call. Why are you not asking? But I've tried to recognize exactly what you're talking about. And I do have 3 or 4 people when I'm just like, I will, I'll jump on the phone, and because I know there's a couple people that within a few moments, we're both laughing and we're both getting those good endorphins going, and things are good. So, yeah.
It's absolutely essential that you start feeling what's going on in your body and then take that step in order to have someone pull you up so you can go do your job.
Right.
Here's the other thing, that the war inside you between your responsibility and your positivity steps into play when you cannot uplift someone. You feel like a failure.
Yeah.
And you will stay in there and stay in there and stay in there until you tank.
Right.
And down you go.
And that's one thing that years ago I tried to separate empathy from sympathy for that reason right there. I'm a very empathetic person because I will take on the feelings, and and maybe it's the responsibility piece. I don't know. But years ago, I did recognize exactly what you're talking about, is that I would go down in flames with them, or I would be way too involved in whatever it was. So as soon as I learned the definition of empathy and was able to discern between empathy and sympathy, I try, and I don't succeed all the time, but I try to, if I start feeling or seeing myself being too empathetic, I'm like, okay, I need to take a step back, because if I come down there with you, I'm not going to be able to help you anymore. So yeah.
So yeah, it is essential that you monitor that part of you so that you can have somebody uplift you so that you can go do your job. Let me ask you, in your profile, where is empathy for you? Empathy is actually a talent. It's a gift that some people have and some people don't.
My woo is 8.
Ooh.
Empathy, 22.
Okay, so that's you're not accessing empathy. Okay. So that's probably a good thing. People high in empathy physically feel in their own bodies what other people feel. So imagine if you had that high, there'd be a big war going on.
Yeah. And you're very right, because I am able to separate myself from bad situations. I mean, I feel for them, and I have emotions. If something really sideways goes for somebody, cancer or whatever, I can feel for them, but I'm not there with them.
Right.
And I feel, and maybe you can tell me if this is right or not, I feel that being that I had that separation, that I can be more real with them, and I can help them more.
Sure.
Because I'm lifting instead of trying to push.
Yes, there's a distance there for you.
Right.
You're involved with them in a different way, like more in an intellectual way.
Right.
As opposed to an emotional way.
Right.
So look at Jason. He says that he has empathy. Yeah, he ain't got any. But Trudy, his wife, it's empathy number 2.
Yep.
She feels everything. Like, it's just her feelings. She's awash with other people's feelings. And people high in empathy have to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Because the rest of us will suck the life out of them.
Yeah. Yep.
And so
Absolutely.
that's a learned, for each of us, it's learning how we operate best and learning the pitfalls, the things that are going to take us down. Like for you, it's negativity.
Right.
For sure. And then being able to recognize when we're in that space, and then what can we do to get out of it?
Right.
So like we just talked about for positivity, when you go down, your way to get back up is to reach out in vulnerability and say, hey, can you help me here?
Yeah.
I need I Love Lucy for a minute,
Oh, absolutely. And because my communication is so high, and I'm processing this as we're talking, so I might be all over the place, but I know for a fact that if I call my buddy and I just word vomit on him, and I just like, here it is, he doesn't even necessarily, or she doesn't even have to have like, well, here's the fix. A lot of times it's just me getting it off.
Absolutely.
And having that interaction, having that back and forth a little bit. So
it's the verbal processing again. You're processing verbally, like, you just got to get it out. And that's what helps you move forward. Aren't you glad that you know that about you?
Absolutely. Well, it also, I mean, like meetings, I thrive in a meeting environment because there is that interaction, and we're able to, email efficiency is great and emailing back and forth, but there's no emotion in an email. There's, and then let's talk about my body language. I'm not able to get that piece of it either, which is communication. That just ties in everything as well, which now makes more sense why I was so drawn to this form of communication that we don't know about unless we're taught about it, so.
And for you, because of your communication being really high, you really will get this Strengthsfinder stuff because it's a language.
Yes.
What we're doing is we're talking about a language and an ability to express yourself in a way that is in common with what other people can understand. You have the opportunity before you today to create a common language with other people, so that you go home and you're like, my belief is worn out. And you name and claim and own the piece of you that is struggling, and you know how to shift out of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point. That's why this is so different than a personality test.
Well, and you're right. And, even when I was in a financial services industry, when I very first started in business, and we utilized personality tests for matching up the different personalities so we could communicate better and we were on the same level. So this just, of course, takes it to the next level. But now I'm curious what my next, do you mind going through a couple more?
No, not at all.
Okay. So number 6 is arranger.
Okay. So people high in arranger love efficiency, and they're big planners. They plan and plan. They have their primary plan, their secondary plan, their tertiary plan, their backup plan, their rainy day plan. And they love planning and arranging, and it's all about efficiency.
Okay, so if you ask my wife, she would say I don't plan shit. Because that's probably I'm guessing one of her high ones, because she has to have everything lined out. She has to have, everything. And it's funny, and it's interesting because I do like planning. I like making plans. I was an event planner for forever. I did.
Well, that's it. That's you love planning events, and that's definitely a sign of arranger at play.
Absolutely. And it's, okay, man, this is, okay, so many things are starting to click, okay? Because I've been
Isn't it fun? I love this.
I've been trying for a long time to figure out how to, because one thing I am not good at, and maybe you can shine some light on this, but one thing I'm not good at is day-to-day structure, day-to-day activities, right? Doing the same thing every day makes me want to throw up in my mouth. So I've been trying to build my businesses like an event planner. You have an event X number of days, months, years out, and then you back it up and you plan out the parts and pieces. But what I've learned about myself is that once I accomplish whatever it is, I'm done with it. And then I have to move on to something else. Because if there's no end date, if there's no completion, I lose interest. And I just don't care anymore.
Sure.
But if there's, like, I'm working on, there's an event in Maryland. It's called the Mud Dog Run. It's not until April. But I've got on my calendar, and my buddy and I were starting to plan, and I'm like, okay, now my brain's active. Now I'm moving on it. But I know that April 21st, 2 days after that, the event's cleaned up, and I don't think about it again. And for whatever reason, that's motivating to me.
Sure, because you're done. The planning is over.
Right.
Now it's time to go plan something else. That's where that arranger comes through. And arranger is very flexible. You express this issue with hating the mundane and the day-to-day and the et cetera, et cetera. And so people high in arranger love to identify the various parts. Mm-hmm. And then they love to shift and bend and rearrange and rearrange and rearrange for efficiency.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get lost in your rearranging because they're like, why is he changing it again? And you're like, well, yeah, I found a better way.
That's my wife. My wife hates it when I'm like, a couple days later, I'll be thinking about whatever it is. We're remodeling the house, and I'll be like, if we did this differently in the bathroom, or here's another idea, or, and you're right, efficiency, because I have to fix a shower, one of our showers. We bought a fixer-upper, and the master shower leaks and it won't turn off right. She's like, okay, go fix it. I'm like, but if I tear that apart, then that means I have to tear this apart. If I tear that apart, then that's going to affect this. So I'm not doing this until we're ready to do all of this, because then it's just going to be a ridiculous mess.
Right. And listen to your strategic up there that sees all of the different parts that have to be taken care of before you can even get started on the project.
Right.
So that's just more evidence of the working together,
Yeah, absolutely. And
so I want to bring a point up, if I may, is that we are breaking apart these talents one at a time in order to understand what they are. They never work in isolation. You don't ever just sit and use your arranger alone. You're combining your arranger with your strategic, and then you're talking it out with your communication, and then you're so happy and excited about it, you got to infuse a little positivity in there. And so they always work together. We break them apart so we can understand what they are, what the needs are, what's going on. Why am I feeling out of balance here? Oh my gosh, it's my belief in that guy that stole something. I'm certain of it. And so this is where I just want to make sure that that's clear.
I still hold grudges, and I try not to hold a grudge, but I still hold grudges for people who still owe me something or stole or whatever from years ago. So this might be something. Number 7 is activator.
Yes, I'm an activator. So people high in activator jump and move. Mm-hmm. And this is your frustration with the mundane, day-to-day yawn material. You love to be on the move. You are a mover and a shaker and a catalyst for change. Mm-hmm. And that's what adds that fresh, dynamic, fun stuff to your life, is the action. People high in activator take massive action in the moment. They don't plan.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, we're jumping.
Yeah, because you seize opportunity and you're in it knee deep, and sometimes you're like, ooh, I didn't know it was going to be like that. And then you're out, and then somebody else is cleaning up that mess.
You know me so well.
Well, I know the test so well, right? You and I've never met. That ought to be, we ought to bring that up, that isn't it amazing that I can know all of this amazing stuff about you just with these words.
That's
so
great.
Here's the other thing about your activator is when you have complete clarity, you are fearless. There's no fear. So if you are in a situation where you are procrastinating, it's because you don't have clarity. That's it. You're just not clear.
You know me so well. No, and I love this, Rhonda. I really love this, and I really appreciate this because it does, maybe it's activating my strategic, but it's it makes sense because you're right. I'm working on a couple projects that I'm just like, I know what I need to be doing. Yeah. I know what I need to be doing. I know the process. But I'm like, okay, case in point is just this morning, I had a one of these with Eric Birdie from Maryland, phenomenal guy, amazing guy. And he gave me some, he clarified something for me. I'm trying to write a book about body language. It's been on my bucket list for 20 years. I've just never done it, mostly out of fear. So I made a commitment in December. I'm like, I'm getting this shit done. This is going to happen. So we were kind of BSing back and forth, and I'm not a writer. I'm an orator. I'm a communications, right? And writing is not something that comes naturally. It's a process for me. It's work. So he was awesome. He's like, so why are you writing this? He's like, go talk to people who have had successes with what you've taught. Go take their stories, put it in a book. And Rhonda, it's so amazing that you just said what you did, because then my clarity between his talk and you and me sitting down, I've already written down and started the process of, oh, well, I need to talk to this person. I need to do this, and I need that, and then. So, okay. All right.
So here's the thing is, this is what I'm going to suggest to you, that you are completely capable of writing. With the communication talent high, it is in the sphere of ability for you if you add skill and practice. So what you're missing is the skill and practice of writing, the actual act of writing. That's all you're missing. So you can, a few things that you can do in order to write the book is, as Eric suggested, is go talk to some people. You could also record your conversations, send it to a transcriptionist, allow them to, then you get to see it in writing, and you're like, ooh, that's not exactly what and then through the editing process, it can be cleaned up and put out there very nicely.
Right.
So,
John just threw out there, a buddy of mine from back home, if I could write, anyone can. Well, I appreciate that, John, but I feel, John, you have a little bit of a natural talent there, and you are awesome at it. So, okay, fair enough. Awesome. Okay, I do want to get to one here, and our time is getting closer to being at the end. Can I just rattle off the next three for the top 10?
Sure.
Woo. I don't know what that is. Achiever and ideation. That rounds out the top 10.
So woo is the only talent that's an acronym.
Okay.
This is my number 2, and it stands for, it is, because it stands for winning others over. And whenever woos hear themselves, they go, woo! We cannot not do that. People high in woo have super high energy that we don't even know how to turn off. Like, when I walk in the room.
Right.
You can feel the energy, and I'm going to tell you, I got nothing. I don't feel anything that I'm putting out, and yet people will feel me. I've been told my whole life that if they could bottle my energy, that they'd make $1 million. And I wish they'd teach me how to do that, because, it's just who I am. I don't know how to not be woo. Yeah,
Right.
Jason ain't got no woo. So woo makes you a people person.
Okay.
You need people. This is what I told you before with your positivity and your communication and your woo. Those three talents absolutely need people.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care where you go to be around them. And I think the reason why the Uber thing works for you is because you have new, fresh people.
Right.
That's what woos need.
Yep. Yep.
A couple of new people a day and you're great.
I can tell the same story 15 times a day, but it doesn't bother me to say the same thing,
to different
15 times a
people.
day. Yeah, because they're different people,
Right.
and I get different reactions, or I don't get any reaction, which is kind of weird. But that's okay, cool. All right, so that's woo.
Woo. And then your achiever loves to be busy and productive. And this is where you like to keep your little checklists and make sure you got everything done that day. Now, I don't know whether that's fully active in you, but coming in at number 9, it may or may not be. Usually you're dominant in around your top 8 to 12. So possibly, and maybe not. And then ideation is what I shared earlier, that popcorn brain, constantly busy brain. Mm-hmm. Like 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, ooh, my brain is active, and I'm like, where are my people I can talk to? And we don't sleep very much. Ideation's my number 1.
Oh, is it?
Uh-huh.
Because I'm always thinking about something. I'm always. There's very few times, and it's funny, when my wife and I first started going out, I'd ask her all the time, what are you thinking about? She's like, nothing. And to me, I was like, that's impossible. We're thinking about something all the time, and being from Idaho, to go anywhere, you have to drive hours to go anywhere, and so a lot of windshield time gave me a lot of time to think and process, and at any given time, most anybody could ask me what I'm thinking about, and I'm thinking about something, and it could be the most random crap in the world.
Well, that's ideation.
There's
totally random. Mm-hmm.
So
ideation is very random, just things pop in your head and you're like, ooh, that's a great idea. But you're great in a brainstorming session.
But here's what's interesting. Once again, I'm processing all this as we go along. Being my strategic is first, I'll have a random thought pop in, and then I'll be like, okay, where did that come from? And then I'll try to trace where my thought patterns were to try to figure out, how did I jump from jumping rope to stilettos? And
there's no explanation for that. And the best thing to go, oh, hello, ideation.
There you
go. And quit asking that question, because it's not really very effective. Because who cares where, right? Look, Jason has ideation number 9.
There you go. The math.
I love my ideation.
So going back to achiever on the lists and whatnot, you're right. I have lists all over the place, but I think you're right that it's not something that naturally comes to me. Like it's just a reaction. It's when I sit down, I'm like, okay, it's time to do my
planning
and my planning. When it's time to sit down and do it, yes, then I have lists everywhere. And
otherwise you're just moving.
Exactly.
Because your activator is so dominant.
I'm an octopus on roller skates. There's a lot of action, no direction. And
that's not true. Because your strategic sees every opportunity for direction.
Absolutely. But when I'm not there, when I don't have that direction, when I'm not being strategic about it, it really bothers me.
Yeah, and that goes to that lack of clarity.
Yeah.
And that's all that it means. It doesn't mean that you are, what did you say? It doesn't mean that you're directionless. It just means you don't have clarity on the direction you need to be in right now. Does that make sense? I want you as a coach to not say that about you.
Right.
Because it's not true. and I have the black and white evidence to prove that it's not true. It's just a lack of clarity. So maybe you need to do a little more digging or find out some more information, or, you know,
I like
you just have some questions. So for you, when you feel, and listen, it's a feeling, right? You understand? There's a feeling in you that says, I'm an octopus on roller skates with no direction. Whenever you feel that feeling that makes you want to describe that, perhaps it's time for questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why am I feeling this way? What's missing? Where do I lack clarity? How can I get clear? And start asking questions to where you're strategic will start to figure that out. It's a pretty powerful assessment. Isn't it way bigger than what you thought?
Jason's been talking about this for years, and
you didn't listen.
Well, I trust Jason. I absolutely trust Jason, but maybe it was a timing thing. Maybe it was
sure, of course.
I don't know.
Of course.
So Jason, thanks again for trying to beat something in my head, but I wasn't listening. But at the same time, though, yeah, you're absolutely right, and it all connects. And trying to be as introspective as I can, man, this gives me a lot to work with. And I
can't wait until you get your wife to take the assessment.
I was going to ask that question. I do too. I really want her to take this assessment. As a coach, when you have spouses, business partners, best friends, brothers, whatever, that are like, when they have conflicting things, how do you, and I'm not asking you to give all of the tricks and whatnot, but how do you counsel? What's your pieces of advice for people that, because I'm positive there's a couple things that we're going to be opposite on.
Well, let me put it this way. My top 5 are in my husband's bottom 8.
Okay.
So the chances of you and your wife being alike is really not very high.
Right.
And this is what makes people, when they first meet their dearly beloved, they're like, oh, she's so cute, bink, 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 bink. And they think they're just so wonderful. It's because they're feeling the gap being filled. They're
opposite
feeling, exactly. And then about 7 years later, they're stepping on one another's last nerve, and they're like, I can't stand you. And this is because they don't understand one another. And there's no acceptance there. So it is important first that you understand you and the dynamics of your talents. And same thing for her, that she understands her. Look at what Jason is saying. It takes the blame away from the person and puts it on the talent or strength. Yes, exactly. Yes. You can point to why. Yep. And you can start to see one another's perspective and accept it. You're not going to understand it, but you can accept it.
Yep. I love
so that's really, really what it's all about. So when I'm working with couples, I always start out with their own self-awareness. That's where it has to start. And then we can start moving into understanding why it's not exactly fitting here. And then set about to set that right.
You're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. You are awesome. Look how awesome you are. Don't you love knowing this about you?
I do. It's a little scary because, because part of it, I think part of it, and it's not just me, I think this is a cultural thing, is we have a tendency of trying to work on our weaknesses and ignoring our strengths, because one of the conflicts I have inside myself is being confident versus arrogant. I don't like arrogance. It's a belief thing. All right. Now that I'm learning all of this, it's a belief thing, is that arrogance drives me nuts. And I do not ever want anyone to think that I'm an arrogant person. Right. And so something that I'm processing and I'm trying to work on is knowing the difference in myself between what my self-perception of arrogance is in myself and confidence. And, I know I'm not alone, is how folks view, if I concentrate on the things I'm really good at, then that's not what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be fixing the stuff that I suck at.
No, that's not the philosophy that we teach in
exactly.
strengths-based. Yeah.
Exactly.
Please stop fixing yourself.
Right. Maximize what you have.
Yeah, you'll never be, if you try to fix yourself, you're wasting so much time on who you could really be.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, like John Maxwell and Robert Kiyosaki, you know, they've been talking for decades about surrounding yourself with people who are better than you. Do what you do well, and forget about the crap that you suck at, because there's other people who are amazing at those things.
Right.
Hire them, partner with them, let them fill those gaps, let them do those things. And, you know, for some of us, it's easier said than done.
Sure.
You know, and maybe it's my responsibility piece that kicks in, is that I can do it all myself.
Yes, that would be your responsibility.
You know, I don't need help. I can do it. I feel like a 2-year-old sometimes. I can do it. And it's not getting me anywhere.
Mm-mm.
It's taken me way too freaking long in my short lifespan to say, okay, no, these are things that I suck at, accept that, and move on. But that kind of pricks at our pride a little bit.
Well, here's the thing, and my battery may die, so I'm going to be quick about this. My phone is like beep, beep.
Okay.
Here's the thing, is that you will not give up those areas of you that you're not good at because there's shame involved.
Mm-hmm.
Unless and until you accept how amazing you are in your top talents. When you accept that, when you accept how amazing you are, it becomes easy to let go and let other people do what they do best and come along beside you, sharing their gifts and talents, and you can bless and release yourself. Like, I don't do math. My husband takes care of all that because it's my number 31 talent out of 34. So I don't have any control over the family finances. I haven't balanced my checkbook in 35 years. Right? I know somebody out there is like going, is she out of her mind?
Right.
But guess what? I partnered with someone
Yep.
who will do that for me.
Right.
And
and you're doing things for them that is outside of their realm of abilities.
Oh yeah, my husband would not have a social life if it were not for me.
So what you just concluded all this right there, the shame piece really drove it home for me. Is I'm a farm kid, you know, I'm a ranch kid, so we had to do everything. And if you didn't know how to do it, then, you know, kind of a deal. So I think that one word really, it just really hit me, and I appreciate that, is that, you know, to accept and to claim that I am unable to do something, or that it is not something that I can fix, is hard for the pride to accept.
It is, because you have not settled in accepting how amazing you are. And as soon as you're able to do that, the more you learn about this, the more you start to identify who you are as you operate in the world, in your talents. As soon as you start to recognize that, that pride won't be there. You'll start to bless and release and bless and release and bless and release. And you'll start to appreciate the people in your life who do those things for you.
You're awesome. You're so awesome. I need to, because we're going to go for another 2 hours, and your battery's going to die, and we're going to screw up our schedule for the day. So, Rhonda, wow. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I knew this was going to be amazing. Absolutely, with no doubt in my mind, I knew this was going to be amazing. This is more than amazing, and thank you so much for sharing so much.
My joy.
With me and everyone else. Do you mind putting your contact info down in the comments so folks can reach out to you?
Absolutely. If I can do it when I get back online. I can't do it here on the screen.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Whenever you get the opportunity, if you don't mind sharing that, I'd truly appreciate that. everyone, make sure you reach out to Rhonda. Rhonda, wow. Yeah, I'm sure everyone else got an insane amount out of this. Not as much as me, but wow. Thank you, Rhonda.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you, John Mayhew, for making the direct connection. And thank you, Jason, for continuing to beat me over the head with this.
Absolutely.
I'm slow sometimes, and he knows that. And Jason and I have known each other for a long time. So you have an amazing day. I would love down the road, if you don't mind, we could do this again.
Absolutely. Would love that.
All right, Rhonda. Well, hang out for just a second afterwards, but you have an amazing day. Everyone else, go out, check this out. I want to have conversations with people about this now. Those who have done it, who are wanting to do it, I want to have more conversations about this because now I'm eyeball deep in this now. So, guys, keep smiling. Today was a great day because we woke up breathing. So, take care. Talk to you soon.